Have you ever felt a tug at your soul, like something broken in the world was calling out, just for you? Before we begin, if stories like this touch your heart, please like the video, subscribe for more, and tell us in the comments where in the world you're listening from. It means a lot to us. Rain slicked the streets of Portland that October evening, turning pavement into liquid obsidian under flickering streetlights. The air smelled of wet earth, decaying leaves, and loneliness. Maya sat by her drafty apartment window, nursing lukewarm tea. Her reflection in the glass looked fractured, like the life she'd left behind. 6 months since the divorce papers were signed. 6 months of hollow silences in rooms that echoed with ghostly laughter. She'd moved here for a fresh start, but grief had followed like a stray shadow. Outside, a dumpster overflowed behind the Thai restaurant next door. That's where she first saw her. A smudge of matted ginger fur, pressed against the brick wall like a discarded leaf. Motionless. Maya might have missed her entirely, if not for the eyes. 2 saucers of liquid amber, wide with a terror so primal it stopped Maya's breath. She pulled her sweater tighter and stepped into the drizzle. The cat didn't flee, didn't hiss, just watched, as if daring Maya to come closer. 10 feet away, Maya froze. The cat's right hind leg was bent at a sickening angle, dragging uselessly on the wet concrete. Blood matted the fur around it, dark as old wine. Flinching, the creature tried to stand and collapsed with a sound, not a meow, but a stifled gasp. Like a child trying not to sob. "Okay," Maya whispered, voice thick. "Okay, little warrior." She crept closer, 1 inch at a time. Raindrops glistened on the cat's spine, each rib visible beneath thinning fur. Up close, Maya saw the scars. A nick in one ear, claw marks along the flank, the weary slump of a creature who'd stopped expecting kindness. When Maya knelt, the cat pressed her forehead into the damp pavement. A gesture of surrender or exhaustion. "Let's get you warm," Maya murmured, shedding her sweater like a cocoon. The cat didn't struggle as Maya bundled her up, just trembled, a vibration so faint it felt like a hummingbird's heartbeat against Maya's chest. Inside the apartment, Maya laid her on a towel near the radiator. The cat's gaze darted past the faded floral couch, the unpacked boxes, settling on a framed photo on the bookshelf. Maya and her ex-husband, laughing on a beach. The cat stared at it, unblinking. That first night, Maya slept on the floor, 3 feet away. Every hour, she'd shine her phone light to check if the cat was breathing. Once, around 3 a.m., she woke to find those amber eyes fixed on her. Not wary, not pleading, just present. Maya reached out slowly, and the cat pressed her cheek into Maya's palm. Just once. A silent transfer of warmth. By dawn, the rain had stopped. Pale light bled through the curtains, dust motes dancing like forgotten memories. Maya studied the sleeping cat, the way her paws twitched in dreams, the faint purr rumbling from her throat despite the pain. Something loosened in Maya's chest, a knot she'd carried since the day the moving truck pulled away. She named her Clove, for the spice her grandmother used in healing broths. Fragrant, resilient, capable of warmth in the coldest moments. The vet said it was a compound fracture. Probably hit by a car, or kicked, she'd sighed, tracing the jagged line on the x-ray. Surgery would cost $2,300. Maya didn't hesitate. She charged it to a credit card already groaning under the weight of her broken marriage. For weeks, Clove lived in a crate by the radiator, leg pinned with metal. Maya worked freelance graphic design jobs late into the night, the click of her keyboard syncing with Clove's soft snores. They developed rituals. The slow blink Clove gave when Maya brought chicken broth. The way she'd hook one paw through the crate bars, just to touch Maya's ankle. One rainy Tuesday, Maya found herself talking. Not about the weather or work, but about him. The way he'd brought her tulips every Friday, how they danced in this very living room to old jazz records, the crushing silence when the music stopped. Tears dripped onto the crate, and Clove pressed her nose against the mesh, leaving a star-shaped smudge. That's when Maya noticed it, a habit. Every evening, as twilight bled into night, Clove would turn her head toward the window facing the alley. Ears pricked forward, body utterly still. Not anxious, not alert, almost waiting. Looking for your old life? Maya whispered, running a finger over Clove's good ear. The cat leaned into the touch, but her eyes never left the glass. Maya's therapist had told her healing wasn't linear. Some days, she'd unpack a box and collapse sobbing over a mismatched sock. Other days, she'd laugh at sitcoms until her stomach hurt. Clove mirrored her. On bad days, the cat would limp to Maya's feet and roll onto her back, exposing the scarred belly. A feline white flag. On good days, she'd bat crumpled paper balls with fierce, one-legged precision. By December, Clove's cast came off. She left the crate behind, exploring the apartment with a lopsided gait. She'd pause at doorways, sniffing deeply. Sometimes, she'd stare at the photo of Maya's wedding, tail flicking like a metronome. Then came the morning Maya woke to an empty apartment. A window she'd cracked for fresh air, pushed wider. Paw prints on the sill, trailing into the snow-dusted alley. Panic clawed up Maya's throat. She raced outside, calling until her voice frayed. Nothing. Just the hollow echo of her own fear bouncing off brick walls. For hours, she taped flyers to lampposts, fingers numb with cold and dread. The vet's warning echoed. Strays often return to familiar territory, even if it's dangerous. Back home, Maya sank onto the floor where Clove's crate once sat. The radiator hissed, mocking her. She'd failed. Failed her marriage. Failed this fragile life she tried to mend. Outside, snow began to fall, erasing every trace of paw prints, every hope. That night, she dreamed of amber eyes in the dark. When she woke, dawn was painting the sky bruised purple and gold. And there, on the windowsill, pressed against the glass like a promise, was a single ginger paw print. Maya's breath caught. Somewhere out there, in the icy labyrinth of the city, a creature with a crooked leg was fighting to come home. And for the first time since her world shattered, Maya felt a quiet shift, not in the universe, but in her own wounded heart. The kind of shift that whispers, "This isn't the end, it's the first fragile note of a new beginning." The single, smudged ginger paw print on the frosted window pane wasn't proof. Not really. It could have been there before, a phantom mark from weeks ago. Or wishful thinking, painted by Maya's own desperate heart. Yet, she pressed her palm against the cold glass. Right beside it, "Come back," she willed into the icy dawn, her breath fogging the pain. 3 days passed. 3 days of Maya leaving the window cracked, a saucer of warmed chicken broth steaming on the sill. 3 days of her sitting vigil in the dark, wrapped in the sweater she'd used to bundle Clove that first night. It smelled faintly of wet fur, antiseptic, and that indescribable scent of alley dust and rain. 3 days of jumping at every rustle in the dumpster, every scrape of a branch on brick. Hope, a fragile bird, fluttering against the cage of her ribs. On the 4th morning, a sound, not the usual city symphony of garbage trucks and distant sirens, A low, rasping scrape, like sandpaper dragged over wood, coming from the fire escape landing, just outside the window. Maya's heart hammered against her sternum, a frantic drum. She moved slowly, achingly slow, peeling back the curtain just an inch. The curled into the smallest possible ball, pressed against the rusty railing for meager shelter, was Clove. Her ginger fur was crusted with snowmelt and grime, her body shuddering with violent tremors. The once healed leg was tucked tightly against her belly, but the angle looked wrong. Worse than before? Her breathing was shallow, rapid, each inhale a visible struggle. Maya's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a gasp. She came back, but she's broken worse. The thought was a blade. Opening the window wider, Maya whispered, The cat's head lifted, slowly, painfully. Those amber eyes, clouded with exhaustion and fear, locked onto Maya's. No hiss, no attempt to flee, just a low guttural sound, half purr, half moan, that vibrated through the cold metal of the landing. It was the sound of utter defeat and a fragile, terrifying trust. Getting her inside was a careful ballet of fear and trembling limbs. Maya used the same sweater, softening her movements, murmuring nonsense reassurances. Clove offered no resistance, her body limp and shockingly light, as Maya lifted her through the window, back onto the towel by the radiator, back into the circle of warmth she'd fled. The vet confirmed Maya's dread. The leg refractured, likely a fall or another impact. Her systems weakened, fighting infection too, the vet said, tapping the X-ray with a grim expression. The surgery, it'll be more complex this time. More expensive. The number made Maya's stomach drop. She maxed out another credit card, the weight of debt settling like a physical stone, but lighter than the weight of leaving Clove behind. This time, the crate felt like a cage for both of them. Clove retreated deeply, not just physically into the back corner, but emotionally. The slow blink stopped. The pole reaching through the bars vanished. She ate mechanically, drank only when Maya gently touched the water bowl, mostly to slept, or stared blankly at the wall, her gaze hollow, miles away. The vibrant spirit Maya had glimpsed, the fierce, one-legged paper ball hunter, was buried under layers of pain and betrayal. Maya understood that burial intimately. Healing, for both of them, became a slow, silent excavation. Maya worked longer hours, hunched over her laptop at the coffee table, the glow the only light in the apartment deep into the night. The rhythmic tap of keys, the soft hum of the radiator, the shallow, raspy breaths from the crate, were the soundtrack of their shared solitude. Maya stopped talking about her ex-husband. The wound felt too raw, too mirrored in the broken creature beside her. Instead, she talked about small things. The absurdity of a client demanding a logo in passionate puce. The way the winter light hit the brick wall across the alley at 3 p.m., turning it molten gold for precisely 15 minutes. The comforting smell of toast burning slightly, just the way her dad used to make it. One frigid January night, a storm howled outside. Wind screamed around the building corners, rattling the window panes in their frames. Maya jolted awake from a nightmare, sweat-slicked, heart pounding. In the dream, she'd been standing in the empty apartment she'd shared with him, calling his name, but only echoes answered, fading into the sound of shattering glass. She sat up, gasping, tears hot and sudden on her cheeks. The fear, the loneliness, It felt like a physical presence, crushing her chest. From the crate, a sound, not a meow, a low, questioning trill. "Marrow?" Maya froze, wiping her face roughly. She peered through the dimness. Clove was sitting up, her silhouette tense against the crate's mesh. Her ears were flattened, not in fear, but in intense focus, pointed straight at Maya. Her eyes, reflecting the faint streetlight bleeding through the curtains, gleamed like polished amber coins. She wasn't looking at the storm. She was looking at her, at Maya's tears. Slowly, tentatively, Maya slid off the sofa, onto the floor beside the crate. She didn't reach in, just sat, her back against the sofa, knees drawn up, her own breathing still ragged. They stayed like that, listening to the wind rage. Two broken things huddled against the storm. Minutes ticked by. A movement, Clove, with agonizing slowness, dragged herself forward in the crate, ignoring her bad leg. She pressed her entire body, her flank, her shoulder, against the mesh wall closest to Maya. A low, thrumming purr started, deep and resonant, vibrating through the plastic. Not the purr of contentment, but the purr of effort, of offering, a vibration meant to soothe, to mend. Maya felt it, a physical tremor against her arm where it rested near the crate. An action meant for her. Tears welled again, hotter this time. She didn't wipe them away. She leaned her head back against the sofa, closed her eyes, and let the cat's ragged, determined purr wash over her. The storm outside didn't lessen, but the storm inside, the one that had woken her screaming, quieted, just a little, just enough to breathe. That night marked a subtle, seismic shift. Clove began to emerge, not physically far. The legs still needed strict confinement, but emotionally, the slow blinks returned, held longer now, like deliberate gifts. One afternoon, as Maya changed the bedding in the crate, Clove didn't retreat to the back. Instead, as Maya's hand brushed near, Clove tilted her head and deliberately, painfully, rubbed her cheek, the scarred one with the nick in the ear, against Maya's knuckles. It was brief, a ghost of a touch, but it was intentional, scent marking. Mind the gesture said, "You are mine." Maya's breath hitched. The simple act felt monumental, a bridge built across a chasm of pain, one cautious brick at a time. Rituals deepened. The 15 minutes of molten gold light on the brick wall became their shared meditation. Maya would lift the crate onto the coffee table, positioning it just so. They'd watch in silence, the light painting warmth onto Clove's fur, into Maya's weary eyes. Clove started vocalizing more. Soft chirps when Maya entered the room, a particular trill when the chicken broth was warming. Maya learned the language. The impatient tap of a paw against the crate floor meant water, please. The slow, deliberate blink followed by a soft sigh meant I see you. I'm here. One evening, Maya was sketching idly, a habit she'd abandoned after the divorce. Not client work, just shapes, plans, trying to capture the curve of Clove's good ear against the light. She didn't notice the cat watching, innately, until she felt the weight of that amber gaze. Maya held up the sketch pad, showing Clove the rough outline. "See? That's you," she murmured, a small, hesitant smile touching her lips. Clove stared at the drawing, then slowly, deliberately, lifted her good front paw. She didn't tap the crate. She reached it towards the mesh, towards Maya, and gently, ever so gently, pressed her tiny pink pads against the plastic, right where Maya's hand rested, holding the pad. It wasn't reaching out. Not yet. But it was reaching towards. A mirror held up. A silent echo. I see you too. Maya felt it then. Not just in her hand, but deep in the marrow of her bones. The quiet, irrevocable click of two shattered pieces, finding an unexpected, fragile pit. The radiator hummed. The city murmured outside. And in the warm pool of lamplight, a woman and a broken cat built a bridge of small gestures, one blink, one tentative touch, at a time. The trust wasn't whole, not yet. It was still wrapped in bandages, tender as a healing wound. But it was breathing, alive. And for the first time since the snow erased the paw prints, Maya didn't just hope Clove would stay. She knew, boned, that this cat, this fierce, scarred, purring warrior, wasn't just passing through. She was, against all odds, coming home. To stay. The bridge they'd built felt solid, woven from purrs and slow blinks and shared sunlight. Clove's leg, though permanently crooked, grew strong enough for cautious exploration beyond the crate's confines. Her domain expanded, first to a nest of blankets beside Maya's desk, then to tentative patrols along the baseboards. Her gait a distinctive, lurching rhythm Maya could recognize in the dark. Thump scrape, thump scrape. The sound became a comfort, a heartbeat for the apartment. Spring arrived, hesitant at first, then bursting through Portland's gray skin. Warm air carried the scent of damp earth and blooming cherry trees through the cracked window. Maya found herself smiling more genuine smiles that crinkled her eyes. She'd started sketching Clove properly, capturing the way sunlight dappled her ginger fur, the intense focus in her amber eyes as she watched a dust mote dance. Life felt manageable, quietly hopeful. The sharp edges of her own grief had softened, worn smooth by the constant, purring presence beside her. Then the scratching started. It wasn't frantic, not like a cat trying to get out. It was deliberate, methodical. Every night, just after Maya turned off the bedside lamp, the sound would begin. Scritch, 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 coming from the same spot, the corner where the living room wall met the hallway, near the door to the tiny, unused second bedroom Maya used for storage. Boxes of her old life, her grandmother's china, things she couldn't bear to unpack or throw away. The first few nights, Maya dismissed it. "Come here, Clove," she'd murmur, patting the bed. Clove would pause, her silhouette a dark shape against the faint city glow filtering through the curtains. She'd look towards Maya, give a slow, almost apologetic blink, then turn back to the wall. Scritch, scritch, scritch. It wasn't destructive, just persistent, like she was trying to uncover something beneath the plaster. Curiosity, a low ember, began to glow beneath Maya's ribs. One rainy Tuesday evening, she sat cross-legged on the floor, facing the corner. Clove was already there, sitting statue still, staring intently at the baseboard. Her tail tip flicked just once. "What is it, girl?" Maya asked softly, running a hand down Clove's spine. The cat leaned into the touch, but her gaze never wavered from the wall. Maya leaned closer, peering at the spot Clove focused on. Just plain white paint, slightly scuffed near the floor. Nothing remarkable. "See a bug?" Maya teased gently, tapping the wall. Clove flinched, not at the tap, but at the sound. Her ears swiveled forward. Defense. She lifted a tentative paw, not to scratch, but to touch the wall, right where the scuff was darkest. her pads pressed flat against the paint, as if feeling for a heartbeat. A low rumble started in her chest. Not a purr, but something deeper, more resonant, almost a growl, but not hostile, focused, intentional. The sound sent an unexpected chill down Maya's spine. It wasn't fear, but a prickle of unease, the sense of brushing against something hidden, something old. She remembered the vet's offhand comment months ago, during Clove's second surgery. She's got the look of a cat who belonged somewhere once, before the streets got her. That kind of trauma, it leaves marks deeper than bones. Later, Maya tried to distract Clove. A new feather toy, a dish of the expensive tuna pate she loved. Clove played half-heartedly, ate a few bites, then padded back to her corner. She didn't scratch that night. She just sat. Her body a tense line of concentration. The silence felt heavier than the scratching had. The scratching returned the next night. And the next. It became their strange, nocturnal ritual. Maya lying awake, listening. Scritch, scritch, scritch. The sound burrowed under her skin. It stirred something restless, something she thought she'd buried. Memories of her grandmother's house. A specific smell, old wood and lavender sachets. And a feeling, a deep, quiet sadness that seemed to live in the walls of the back bedroom there too. A room her grandmother always kept closed. One afternoon, driven by a compulsion she couldn't name, Maya dragged a box out from the storage room. Not her ex-husband's things. Her grandmother's. Things packed hastily after the funeral. Sealed with tape that crackled now as she peeled it back. The smell hit her first. Lavender, faint and dusty. Mixed with the unmistakable scent of old paper and grief. She lifted out photo albums. Their covers stiff with age. She wasn't looking for anything specific. Just looking. Remembering the woman who smelled like cookies and resilience. Who'd held Maya after her first heartbreak. Whispering, "The heart is a muscle, darling. It breaks to grow stronger." Clove limped over, curious. She sniffed the dusty box, then settled beside Maya, watching her turn the stiff, yellowing pages. Pictures of gardens, family picnics, her grandmother's stern face softening when she held baby Maya. Maya turned a page and froze. A photograph, slightly faded. Her grandmother, much younger, maybe in her 40s, sitting on a porch swing. Not alone. Curled contentedly in her lap, a blur of ginger fur, was a cat. A cat with a distinctive white patch on its chest, shaped like a tiny crescent moon. Maya's breath caught. She'd seen that patch every day. On Clove. She held the photo closer. The cat in the picture, though younger, less scarred, shared the same intense amber gaze, the same slight tilt to the head, the same presence. It couldn't be, could it? Cats didn't live that long. Her grandmother had been gone nearly 10 years. The house sold shortly after. It was impossible. Just a coincidence. A common pattern. The Clove reacted. She hadn't been looking at the photo. She'd been cleaning a paw. But as Maya stared, transfixed, a low vibration started in Clove's chest. That deep, resonant rumble again. Her crooked leg trembling slightly, and stepped onto the open photo album. Delicately, ignoring the pictures around it, she walked straight to the photo of her grandmother and the ginger cat. She lowered her head, not to sniff, but to press her cheek, her scarred cheek, right against the face of the ginger cat in the picture. Right on the white crescent moon patch. Slowly, deliberately, she turned her head, and looked straight at Maya. Her amber eyes held an intensity that stole Maya's breath. It wasn't recognition of a picture. It was connection, a silent transmission. This is mine. This is where I belong. A jolt, electric and cold, shot through Maya. Coincidence crashed into impossibility. The scratching at the wall, the focused intensity, the scent of lavender that clung to the box. That Clove had nuzzled. The photograph, the moon patch. No, Maya whispered, the word a dry leaf in her throat. It can't be. Gran's cat, her name was. The name surfaced. A fragile bubble from deep memory. Clementine. At the sound of the name, Clove didn't meow. She blinked. One slow, deliberate, unmistakable blink. Then released. Her gaze never leaving Maya's. The room tilted. Maya's hands trembled. The photo album suddenly heavy as stone in her lap. The comfortable rhythm of their life. Thump scrape, shattered, replaced by a dizzying whirlwind of questions. How could this broken stray, rescued from a Portland alley, possibly be connected to her grandmother's cat? From a small town 200 miles away. A decade ago? The scratching at the wall, was it just instinct? Or was it memory? Was she trying to reach something that existed only in the echoes of a forgotten past? That night, the scratching didn't start. Clove didn't go to the corner. She sat on the rug, in the center of the living room, watching Maya, watching her pace, her mind racing, trying to stitch together fragments that refused to align. The peaceful coexistence they'd built felt paper-thin, threatened by the weight of this impossible connection. The apartment walls, once a sanctuary, now seemed to whisper with secrets, with the ghost of lavender, and a name, Clementine. Sleep was impossible. Maya finally gave up, sinking onto the sofa in the pre-dawn gray. Clove hopped up beside her, careful of her leg, and curled into the curve of Maya's body. Not demanding, just present, solid. Maya buried her fingers in the warm ginger fur, feeling the steady thrum of Clove's purr. A grounding vibration against the chaos in her mind. She stared at the opposite wall, not the scratching corner, but the spot where the framed photo of her laughing with her ex-husband still sat. A different ghost. A different kind of fracture. The first pale streaks of dawn painted the sky. Maya made a decision. She couldn't live with the whispers in the walls, with the phantom scratching, with the impossible weight of a name. She needed answers. Not for Clove, but for herself. For the fragile piece that now felt like a lie. She pulled out her laptop, the glow harsh in the dim room. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Where to even start? Her grandmother's old address? The town records? A desperate hope flickered. Maybe the new owners. Maybe someone remembered Clementine, or what happened after her grandmother died. As the sun rose, casting long, accusing shadows across the room, Maya typed the name of her grandmother's small hometown into the search bar. Her heart hammered, a frantic counterpoint to Clove's deep, steady purr. She added the words, animal shelter. 10 years ago. It felt absurd, like chasing smoke. But then, a link. A local historical society blog post, archiving old newspaper snippets. A small headline, buried in the community section from 11 years ago. Local woman's beloved cat missing after house fire. Maya's blood ran cold. She clicked. The page loaded slowly, agonizingly. A grainy scanned image appeared. A short paragraph. Asterisk, a small fire, contained primarily to the sunroom, occurred Tuesday evening at the residence of Mrs. Evelyn Reed on Maple Street. Mrs. Reed, 78, was unharmed and evacuated safely. Tragically, her longtime companion cat, Clementine, escaped during the commotion and has not been seen since. Mrs. Reed is heartbroken and asks neighbors to keep an eye out for the ginger tabby, described as friendly and wearing a blue collar with a moon-shaped tag. The date: 3 months before her grandmother died. Not of the fire. Maya remembered now. The hushed tones. The fire scared her, Maya. She just wasn't the same after. Like she lost her spark. Clement hadn't just been missing. She'd fled a fire. Turfed. Injured? But her grandmother, heartbroken, had never found her. Had died believing her beloved Clementine was gone forever. Maya looked down at the cat sleeping against her. The crooked leg, the scars, the fear in her eyes that first night, the way she'd pressed her forehead into the wet pavement. Not surrender, but defeat. Years of survival. Plus, leading her, impossibly, 200 miles, through alleys and dangers, to the granddaughter of the woman who had loved her. The scratch? Was it the sound of a trapped memory? The echo of flames? Or the futile scrape of paws against a door? Long ago, trying to get back to the person she loved? The weight of it, the sheer, staggering improbability mixed with heartbreaking logic, crushed Maya. Tears, hot and silent, streamed down her face, dripping onto Clove's fur. The cat stirred, lifting her head. Those ancient amber eyes, clouded with sleep, looked into Maya's wet ones. Clove didn't purr. She didn't blink. She simply reached up, with her good front paw, and gently, so gently it was almost imperceptible, touched the tear track on Maya's cheek. A single pad, cool and soft, against the saltwater skin. It wasn't comfort. It was recognition. A silent whisper across a decade of loss. I remember the fire too. The fragile piece was gone, shattered by a truth more immense and painful than Maya could have imagined. The cozy apartment felt cavernous, filled with the ghosts of 2 women, and a cat whose journey defied reason. The scratching corner, the photograph, the name, they weren't just mysteries. They were fragments of a shattered past, demanding to be pieced together. I held Clement, tighter. The bridge they'd built wasn't just between woman and cat anymore. It spanned generations, and a chasm of fire and loss. And Maya knew, with a chilling certainty, that the scratching had stopped, only because the real excavation into the heart of an old, buried pain was just beginning. For both of them, the silence in the car driving back to Portland was thick, suffocating. Not the comfortable quiet of shared understanding, but the heavy, charged stillness after lightning strikes. Waiting for the thunder. Maya gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. Beside her in the carrier, Clement was utterly motionless. No soft chirps. No rustling. Just wide, unblinking amber eyes, staring straight ahead, seeing something far beyond the windshield. The echo of that desolate yard, the phantom scent of charred wood and lavender, seemed trapped in the car with them. Back in the apartment, the familiar space felt alien. The radiator's hiss sounded accusatory. The framed wedding photo, a relic of a different kind of loss, seemed to watch them. Maya mechanically filled Clove's water bowl, her hands trembling so badly water sloshed onto the floor. Clove limped out of the carrier, ignoring the water, ignoring Maya. She went straight to the corner, not to scratch, to sit. back rigid, tail wrapped tightly around her crooked leg, a sentinel facing the wall. Waiting. The air hummed with unspoken grief, a decade old, and freshly ripped open. Maya tried to breathe, tried to reason. Coincidence. A crazy, heartbreaking coincidence. But the image wouldn't leave her. Clove pressing her scarred cheek to the photograph, the raw terror in her eyes at the sight of the ruined sunroom. The name, Clementine, hanging between them like a ghost. The scratch, that persistent, maddening scratching, felt like the key to a lock Maya wasn't sure she wanted to open. Because what if it wasn't just a cat's odd behavior? What if it was memory? A trapped, terrified memory clawing its way out? The thought was terrifying. It threatened the fragile reality she'd built. Days bled into a tense, exhausting week. Maya functioned on autopilot. Work blurred. Food tasted like ash. She watched Clove. The cat moved through the apartment like a shadow. Haunted. She ate little. The slow blinks vanished. Her gaze was perpetually distant, locked on some internal landscape of fire and loss. The corner drew her like a magnet. She'd sit for hours, utterly only the faint tremor in her crooked leg betraying her tension. A low, continuous rumble would start in her chest, a sound deeper and more mournful than any Maya had ever heard. It wasn't for comfort. It was a lament. The scratching returned with a vengeance. Not just nightly now. During the day, when Maya was trying to work, trying to think. Scritch, scritch, scritch. Louder. More insistent. Frenzied. Maya would rush over. Clove. Clementine. Stop, sweetheart, please. The cat would pause. Look at her with those ancient, sorrowful eyes. Then turn back to the wall, resuming with renewed desperation. It was destroying the plaster. Fine white dust coated the baseboard. Maya covered the spot with cardboard. Clove shredded it. She taped thick blankets there. Clove dug through them, her claws catching on the fabric. A frantic, terrifying sound. Stop it! Maya finally screamed one rain-lashed afternoon, her own grief and fear and frustration boiling over. She grabbed Clove, not roughly, but firmly, pulling her away from the wall. Clove didn't fight. She went limp in Maya's arms, the dead weight, but her eyes, fixed on the scarred patch of wall, held a desperation that shattered Maya's anger into splinters. It wasn't defiance. It was need. A need so profound, so visceral, it transcended reason. Maya sank to the floor, Clove still cradled against her, both trembling. Rain lashed the windows. The radiator hissed. The shredded blanket lay like a battlefield casualty. And the wall, the scarred, insistent wall, seemed to pulse between them. Maya looked at the damage. Deep gouges in the plaster, exposing the rough lath beneath in one spot. Something glinted, faintly, caught in the torn edge of the wallpaper. Where it met the baseboard, Clove had been relentlessly attacking. Not plaster dust. Something metallic, tiny. Her breath hitched. A nail? A forgotten tack? She leaned closer, gently shifting Clove in her lap. The cat tensed, a low warning growl starting in her throat. Her eyes fixed on the glint. The growl seemed to say, "That is mine." With trembling fingers, ignoring the growl that vibrated against her, Maya picked at the torn edge of wallpaper. Old glue crackled. Plaster dust puffed. Clove suddenly twisted, not to escape, but to press her front paws against Maya's chest. Her face inches from Maya's, that growl intensifying. Her breath hot and rapid. Her eyes weren't angry. They were pleading. Don't. Please don't. But Maya had to. The compulsion was stronger than fear, stronger than reason. She peeled back another inch of brittle wallpaper, revealing the lath beneath, and the wedged deep into a crevice, covered in decades of grime and dust, was a tiny, tarnished piece of metal. Not a nail. A tag. A small, crescent-shaped tag. Maya's heart stopped. She knew that shape. She'd seen it in a grainy newspaper scan. With numb fingers, fingers that felt detached from her body, she pried it loose. It was cold, heavy for its size. She rubbed the grime away with her thumb. Tarnished silver emerged, and etched onto its surface, faint but unmistakable, was a name. Clementine. Below the name, a phone number. Her grandmother's old number, and used for 10 years. Time ceased. The radiator, Clove's frantic breathing, all faded into a high-pitched hum. Maya stared at the tag. The proof. The impossible, irrefutable proof. This broken, scarred creature trembling in her lap, whining softly now, wasn't just like Clementine. She was Clementine, her grandmother's beloved cat, lost to fire and terror a decade ago, surviving for a journey only to find her way, against all conceivable odds, to the granddaughter. The scratch. It hadn't been random. It hadn't been madness. It had been memory, a desperate, instinctive drive to reach the thing. The proof she knew, somehow, was hidden there. Perhaps the tag had fallen, kicked into that crevice during the chaos of packing, or moving, or in the years of Maya's own numb existence in this apartment. Buried, forgotten, until a cat, guided by a love and a loss etched deeper than bone, refused to let it stay lost. A sob ripped from Maya's throat, guttural, a sound of utter devastation and profound, staggering awe. Tears, hot and endless, blurred the tiny silver crescent in her hand. She looked down at Clove, Clement, who had stopped growling, stopped trembling. The cat was staring at the tag, her amber eyes wide, unblinking. A soft sound escaped her, not a meow, not a purr, but a sigh of such profound recognition. It shattered Maya completely. Clementine lifted her head, slowly, painfully, her gaze shifting from the tag to Maya's tear-streaked face. For a long, suspended moment, they simply looked at each other. Woman and cat, granddaughter and grandmother's lost love. Two souls, shattered by different fires, adrift in different kinds of loneliness, connected across an impossible chasm of time and tragedy. In Clementine's ancient eyes, Maya didn't just see the cat she'd rescued. She saw her grandmother's grief, the desolate yard, the years of survival on unforgiving streets, the sheer, unthinkable will it had taken to endure, to find her way here, to this wall, to this moment, to her. And Clementine, in Maya's streaming eyes, wet with the salt of shared sorrow, saw what? The granddaughter she'd never known? The echo of the woman she'd loved and lost? A safe harbor, finally, after a decade of storms? Maya didn't know, but she felt it. A connection from vibrant, deeper than language. A bridge made not just of purrs and slow blinks, but forged in shared fire, shared loss, and this impossible, miraculous return. Clementine moved first. So, deliberately, she stretched her neck forward, ignoring her crooked legs' protest. She didn't look at the tag again. She pressed her forehead, her scarred forehead, against Maya's wet cheek, exactly as she had done years ago, in a rain-slicked alley, when hope was a distant star, a gesture of utter surrender and absolute trust. But this time, it wasn't defeat. It was homecoming. Maya wrapped her arms around the frail, trembling body, the tag clenched tight in her fist, its sharp edges biting into her palm, a sweet, anchoring pain. She buried her face in Clementine's fur, inhaling the scent of dust and resilience, and an impossible miracle. Her sobs shook them both. Great, heaving waves of grief released. Grief for her grandmother, grief for Clementine's lost years, grief for her own broken marriage, all swirling together, purged by the staggering truth held in her hand, and purring, faintly now, against her heart. The radiator hissed. The rain gentled to a soft patter. The shredded blanket lay forgotten. The gouged wall, with its exposed secret, stood as a testament. In the center of the floor, a woman held a cat, a ghost given flesh, a love story resurrected from ashes. The thunder had come, not with destruction, but with a cleansing, shattering. The bridge across the chasm wasn't just built anymore. It was consecrated by fire, by time, by a tiny, tarnished crescent moon, and the purr, growing stronger by the second, of a cat finally, remembering her name. The storm passed, leaving the apartment washed clean in pale morning light. Maya sat on the floor, Clementine curled in her lap like a comma, the tarnished crescent moon tag warm between Maya's palm and the cat's spine. The purr vibrating against her ribs wasn't just sound. It was a language, a decade of loneliness, and stubborn hope, translated into a low, rumbling hymn. The gouged wall stared back, a wound, but no longer a mystery, just a testament. In the days that followed, a quiet revolution unfolded. Not loud, not dramatic, but deep, like roots shifting beneath thawing earth. The scratching stopped. Utterly. Clementine would still sit by the wall sometimes, her gaze soft now, contemplative, but the frantic desperation was gone, replaced by something like the ghost had been laid to rest. The memory, no longer needed to claw its way out. Maya found herself moving differently too. The weight of her divorce, once an anchor around her neck, felt lighter, not gone, but put in perspective. How could she cling to the grief of a 5-year marriage, when Clementine had carried 10 years of loss across 200 miles? She took down the wedding photo, not angrily, but gently, wrapping it in tissue before placing it in the storage room. The space on the bookshelf didn't stay empty long. She framed the tiny crescent tag, mounting it on a simple square of charcoal linen. Beside it, she placed the photograph of her grandmother and a younger Clementine, vibrant, unbroken, safe in the circle of Evelyn Reed's arms. Routines transformed. Mornings were no longer a bleary scramble. Maya would wake to the soft pressure of Clementine's chin on her cheek, a ginger alarm clock purring softly. They'd migrate to the window, watching the alley below come alive. Maya sipped coffee. Clementine basked in the weak sun, her crooked legs stretched out with a new ease. The molten gold light on the brick wall at 3 p.m. became sacred. Maya would lift Clementine onto the sill, and they'd watch in silence, the light painting warmth onto fur and skin alike. It wasn't just light anymore. It felt like her grandmother's hand, resting on both their heads. Clementine's personality, once guarded, then shattered open by trauma, blossomed. She became playful, truly playful. Not the tentative batting of paper balls, but full-throated chases after feather wands. Clumsy leaps ending in tumbles that made Maya laugh until tears came. Real tears. Clean and bright. Clementine would pause mid-tumble, hearing that unfamiliar sound, and tilt her head, amber eyes wide with feline curiosity, before launching back into the game with renewed vigor. Once a tentative rumble became a constant, rich engine, a sound that seemed to vibrate the very air. Food became communion. Maya discovered Clementine adored salmon. Not the cheap kind, but the pan-seared fillets Maya started buying for herself. She'd cook an extra piece, seasoned, and they'd eat together at the small kitchen table. Maya at her chair, Clementine on a cushioned stool beside her, delicately nibbling her fish with a dignity that belied her crooked stance. Maya found herself talking again, not just to fill silence, but to share. She told Clementine about her grandmother, real stories, not just the sanitized memories. How Evelyn Reed had secretly hated gardening but did it because her husband loved it. How she'd saved pennies in a mason jar for years to surprise Maya with a trip to the ocean. How she'd whispered Maya's name, "My little Maya angel," just before she slipped away. Clementine would listen, chewing slowly, her gaze fixed on Maya's face, ears swiveling slightly. When Maya mentioned a specific detail, like the lavender sachets Evelyn tucked into every drawer, Clementine's purr would deepen, a resonant hum of recognition. The storage room, once a tomb of packed grief, became a place of gentle excavation. Maya didn't rush, box by box. She unpacked her grandmother's life, not with sadness, but with reverence. She found the china, delicate floral patterns her grandmother only used on holidays. She found quilts, stitched by hand, their fabrics faded but still holding the scent of cedar and love. She found letters, tied with blue ribbon, love letters from a grandfather she'd never met. One rainy afternoon, she opened a small carved wooden box. Nestled in velvet was her grandmother's wedding ring. Simple gold, worn thin. Beneath it, a folded piece of stationery. Maya recognized the elegant script. "For my Maya angel, when the time is right, love is the only thing we leave behind that doesn't rust. Wear it in health, my darling. Gran." Maya slipped the ring onto her right hand. It fit perfectly. Clementine, who'd been napping on a sun-warmed quilt, opened one eye. She stretched, limped over, and sniffed the gold band. Slowly, deliberately, she butted her head against Maya's hand, right over the ring. A benediction. The alley outside, once a place of dumpsters and despair, became their shared kingdom. On warm afternoons, Maya carried Clementine downstairs, setting her gently on a bench in the tiny patch of sunlight that pierced the buildings. Clementine wouldn't roam far. She'd sniff the air, watch sparrows with regal disinterest, then hobble back to press against Maya's leg. Neighbors started to recognize them. The old lady from the Thai restaurant brought out scraps of unseasoned chicken. "Brave cat," she'd say in broken English, patting Clementine's head. Clementine would accept the tribute with a slow blink. The debt from the surgeries still loomed, but it felt different now. Not a chain, but an investment. Maya took on more design work, her creativity sparked by a newfound sense of purpose. She even sketched a logo for the Thai restaurant, a graceful ginger cat curled around a steaming bowl, in exchange for endless spring rolls. The owner cried when she saw it. Clementine, watching from her perch on the counter, puffed up slightly, as if taking credit. Nights were the deepest change. No more lying awake listening for scratching, or the echo of her own loneliness. Maya slept dreamlessly. Clementine claimed the pillow beside her, a warm, purring presence. In the deepest dark, Maya would feel a soft paw touch her cheek. Not demanding, just checking. "Still here?" Maya would murmur. "Still here, Clementine." The name, once a ghost, now felt like a promise on her lips. One evening, as May bled into June, they sat by the open window. The scent of night-blooming jasmine drifted in. Clementine was stretched on the sill, watching moths dance around the streetlight. Maya traced the scars on the cat's flank, the crooked line of her leg. Each mark was a map, a story of survival. She thought of her grandmother's words, uncovered in a letter that afternoon. "We are not defined by what breaks us, Maya Angel, but by what pulls us back together. Sometimes, it's the most broken pieces that shine the brightest when the light hits them just right." Maya looked at Clementine, bathed in the silver glow of the streetlight. The scars, the crooked leg, the nicked ear, they didn't look like damage anymore. They looked like strength, like love etched into flesh and bone, like a map leading impossibly, miraculously. Clementine turned her head, catching Maya's gaze. Her amber eyes, ancient and knowing, held the reflection of the streetlight, and something deeper, a quiet understanding. She didn't purr. She simply reached out, with her good paw, and placed it gently, deliberately, on top of Maya's hand, the one wearing Evelyn Reed's thin gold ring. 3 generations of women, connected not by blood, but by loss, resilience, and a love that refused to die. The rain began to fall, gentle as a blessing. The same rain that had slicked the streets the night Maya found a broken ginger cat by a dumpster. The same rain that had fallen the night a fire sent a terrified Clementine fleeing into the unknown. It pattered on the fire escape, washing away the city's grime, cleansing the alley below. Maya didn't close the window. She leaned into the damp breeze, Clementine's paw warm on her hand, the ring cool against her skin. The radiator hissed softly, a familiar lullaby. The storm of discovery had passed. The fires, both literal and emotional, had been survived. What remained wasn't perfect or whole, but it was real, solid, quietly radiant, like the crescent moon tag on the wall, tarnished, but gleaming softly in the lamplight. Proof that sometimes, against all odds, lost things find their way back, not to the place they left, but to the heart that was waiting, without even knowing it was waiting, to finally come home. Maya breathed it, jasmine, and the warm, dusty scent of the cat who had led her out of the wilderness. Clementine's purr started again, a deep, contented thrum, echoing the rhythm of Maya's own steady heart. Thumbscript, the sound of survival, the sound of a crooked, beautiful, unbreakable bond, the sound of peace, not given. And in that quiet apartment, with the rain whispering against the glass, and a decade of ghosts finally at rest, Maya knew this wasn't an ending. It was the gentle, sun-drenched beginning of everything that came after the storm. Summer draped itself over Portland like a warm, drowsy cat. Sunlight, thick and golden, pooled on the worn hardwood floor of Maya's apartment, turning dust motes into dancing constellations. Clementine, her ginger fur now sleek and gleaming with health, had claimed a sunbeam near the framed crescent moon tag. She sprawled, belly exposed, crooked legs stretched out in a pose of utter, unself-conscious trust. Her purr was a deep, steady engine, a constant counterpoint to the city's distant hum. Solid. Like the worn gold band on Maya's right hand. Life had settled into a rhythm both comforting and vibrant. Maya's design work flourished. Inspired by the quiet resilience she saw reflected in Clementine's amber eyes. She'd even started sketching patterns based on her grandmother's quilts, intricate floral motifs mingling with subtle crescent moons. The storage room, once a mausoleum, was now a curated archive of love. Evelyn Reed's china graced the open shelves, used for Tuesday night salmon feasts with Clementine. The quilts were aired out, draped over chairs, imbuing the space with the ghost of lavender and cedar. Clementine, in her queenly grace, had become the undisputed heart of their small world. Her domain extended beyond the apartment. Their daily pilgrimages to the bench in the alley patch of sun were sacred. She'd survey her kingdom, greet the old lady from the Thai restaurant with a regal blink, accept chicken tributes with dignified chirps. Her thump scrape, was no longer a sound of brokenness, but a signature, a badge of survival. Neighbors smiled when they heard it. "Here comes the little general," the barista from the corner shop would chuckle. One languid July afternoon, the air thick with the scent of hot pavement and blooming honeysuckle, Maya decided to tackle the last box from her grandmother's things. It was smaller than the others, labeled, tucked deep in the storage room closet behind stacks of old National Geographics. Dust motes swirled in the sunlight as Maya lifted it out. It felt heavier than it looked. Solid. Clementine, roused from her sunbeam slumber, limped over, her tail held high like a ginger question mark. Her nose twitched, as Maya set the box on the cleared kitchen table. "Last one, Clemmy," Maya murmured, running a hand over the plain cardboard. "What secrets are you hiding?" She sliced the brittle tape. Nestled in crumpled yellowed newspaper. Wasn't china or quilts or letters. It was a collection of things. A smooth, worry-worn river stone. A dried sprig of lavender. It scent miraculously still potent, filling the kitchen with a wave of memory. A small, chipped porcelain figurine of a bird in flight. Folded carefully. A bundle of fabric squares. Not quilt pieces. These were smaller. Scraps of velvet, silk, worn cotton. Each one vibrant. Each one utterly unique. Maya lifted the bundle, the fabrics whispering against her fingers. Beneath it, resting on the very bottom, was a small hinged tin, its painted floral design faded but still lovely. Clementine hopped onto a chair, then onto the table, ignoring Maya's half-hearted protest. She padded directly to the tin, sniffed it deeply, then looked at Maya, her gaze unervingly direct. "Open it." The unspoken command hung in the lavender-scented air. Maya's fingers trembled slightly as she pried open the rusted clasp. Protected from time, lay a stack of small, perfectly square, pieces of cardstock. Not blank. Each one held a meticulous pencil sketch. Not landscapes. Not flowers. Cats. Dozens of them. Rendered with astonishing detail and palpable affection. A sleek black cat curled on a windowsill, sunlight catching the edge of its ear. A fluffy gray Persian, regal disdain in its tilted chin. Tabby kitten, captured in a blur of playful energy. Page after page, a gallery of feline souls, each one distinct, each one alive on the paper. Maya caught her breath. She'd never known her grandmother sketched. Evelyn Reed had been practical, a gardener, a keeper of household accounts. This was a hidden language, a secret passion. Near the bottom of the stack, Maya froze. Her heart stuttered. It was Clementine, not as Maya knew her, scarred and wise. Vibrant, unbroken, rendered with breathtaking tenderness. Every detail perfect, the intense amber eyes, the distinctive white crescent moon on her chest, even the slight, endearing tilt of her head that Maya knew so well. She lay curled on what looked like a sun-drenched porch swing, utterly content. Beneath the sketch, in her grandmother's elegant script, was written, "My Clementine, my heart's companion, the truest listener." Tears blurred Maya's vision. She looked from the sketch to the cat sitting patiently beside the tin, then back again. It was her, undeniably her, captured in a moment of pure, youthful peace. Before the fire, before the years of wandering, before the broken leg in a Portland alley, Clementine nudged the tin gently with her nose, then looked pointedly at the bundle of fabric scraps Maya still held. Understanding dawned, slowly, warmly. The fabric squares, the sketches. Maya carefully unfolded the bundle. Tucked inside the folds, she found a small, yellowed envelope. No address, just the words, "For the keeper of stories." A single sheet of paper. "My dearest keeper, if you're holding these, the stories have found you. The stones, the lavender, the bird, they're touchstones from lives shared, briefly but brightly, with creatures who graced my path. The fabrics, they're from collars, blankets, favorite napping spots, belonging to the friends I've sketched. I meant to make something, a book perhaps? Binding their stories with thread and love. Time, it seems, had other plans. Keep their stories alive. Sketch your own companions. Listen, love fiercely. They show us the map back to our own wild, tender hearts. With all my love, Gran." A sob, soft and full of wonder, escaped Maya. Clement, as if satisfied, pushed her head firmly under Maya's hand, demanding strokes. Her purr, impossibly deep, vibrated through the table. The gift wasn't just the sketches, or the fabrics, or the note. It was the revelation of her grandmother's hidden heart. A woman who saw, truly saw, the souls within the fur and whiskers. Who documented them, cherished their small belongings, and dreamed of binding their stories together. Just as Maya, without knowing it, had been sketching Clemente, preserving her story. The connection sang through Maya, bright and clear. She wasn't just Evelyn Reed's granddaughter. She was her inheritor, the next keeper of stories. That evening, as twilight painted the sky in watercolor streaks of peach and lavender, Maya cleared her largest work table. She laid out the fabric squares, each one a tactile memory of a cat her grandmother had loved. She pinned up the sketches, a gallery of silent, watching companions. In the center, the radiant sketch of young Clementine, and beside it, Maya placed her own recent sketchpad, open to pages filled with Clementine now. Clementine basking in molten gold light. Clementine chasing a feather wand with clumsy joy. Clementine sleeping, a crescent moon of fur against Maya's pillow. Clementine herself hopped onto the table, inspecting the arrangement with solemn interest. She sniffed a scrap of blue velvet, lingered by the sketch of her younger self, then walked deliberately to Maya's open sketchpad. framed by her own images, past and present, and looked at Maya, her amber eyes holding the fading light, and the weight of shared legacy. Maya picked up her grandmother's small tin of pencils, found nestled with the sketches. The wood was smooth, worn by Evelyn's fingers. She selected one, a deep amber hue, not to copy her grandmother's work, but to continue it, to weave the threads. She didn't start drawing. She reached for the bundle of fabric squares. Not to make a book, but something else. Something that felt right. She chose a sturdy piece of linen from her own supplies. A soft, warm beige. One by one, she began arranging the fabric squares, interspersing them with small, blank squares of crisp white cotton. On the white squares, with a fine-tipped archival pen, she began to write. Not long stories, just fragments, dates, tiny memories hinted at by the fabrics and sketches. Asterisk, midnight, velvet shadow, 1965 to 1978, stole bacon with impeccable grace. Asterisk, muffin, fluff and disdain, 1972 to 1985, ruled the rose garden. Asterisk, whiskers, patchwork adventurer, 1980 to 1992, always brought gifts of leaves. And in the center, on a slightly larger square of the softest, palest yellow silk, a fabric that felt like sunshine, she wrote, Clementine, crescent moon heart, present, survived fire, survived streets, found her way home, twice, the truest listener, the bridge between worlds. She left space around Clementine Square, space for more fabric, more names, more stories yet to be lived and told. Clementine watched, her purr a soft accompaniment to the rustle of fabric and the scratch of Maya's pen, as Maya carefully pinned the first squares to the linen backing, beginning the slow work of hand-stitching them together. Clementine stretched, limped closer, and deliberately chose a spot on the table beside the growing tapestry. She circled once, then settled, curling herself into a perfect ginger circle, her crescent moon chest rising and falling with deep, contented breaths. A living square, added to the quilt. A story still being written. Maya paused, needle poised. She looked at Clementine, sit now, bathed in the last light of day, then at her grandmother's sketch of the young, unbroken cat, then at the words she just stitched beside Clementine Square. The bridge between worlds. The gift wasn't the tin, or the sketches, or even the fragments of stories. It was the realization, settling into her bones like warm honey, that love wasn't linear. It didn't die with the loved one. Like an underground river, surfacing in unexpected places. In a scarred cat finding her way across impossible miles. In a hidden passion passed down through generations. In the act of stitching fragments of the past, to hold the stories of the present, making something whole, the new, and beautiful. Clementine, in her deep, purring sleep, stretched one paw out, her tiny pink pads resting lightly on the edge of the linen, as if holding the stories in place. Maya smiled, the unburdened smile that reached her eyes. She picked up her needle again. A strong, silken amber glinted in the fading light. She pulled it through the fabric, connecting a scrap of midnight's velvet to the blank square where she would sketch the next companion. Whenever and whoever that might be, the quilt would grow. The stories would continue, guided by the purring guardian of memories and the quiet, enduring love of a grandmother who knew that the smallest lives leave the deepest, most luminous paw prints on the heart. And in that moment, threading the needle, listening to Clementine breathe, Maya understood the final gift. She wasn't just the keeper of stories. She was the weaver, and the tapestry, stretching out before her, was only just beginning. Gentle and insistent, tapped against the window pane. Not the icy needles of that first October night, but a soft summer rain, washing the city in shades of gray and green. The air held the warm, comforting sense of linen thread, lavender from the dried sprig pinned above the work table, and the deep, rhythmic purr of an old cat dreaming. Clementine, a ginger sunbeam curled on the corner of the growing memory quilt. Her breathing was slow, the crooked leg twitching faintly in some feline dreamscape. The once prominent ribs were hidden now beneath a soft layer of contentment, the scars on her flanks silvered badges in the lamplight. Maya's needle moved, soothing, pulling amber thread through a scrap of faded blue velvet that had belonged to midnight. The quilt sprawled across the large table now, a vibrant patchwork of lives loved and remembered. Midnight's velvet, Muffin's scrap of embroidered silk, Whisker's rough-hewn cotton, all stitched with fragments of their stories. And in the center, radiating outwards like the sun, Clementine's square of pale yellow silk, her story stitched beside it. Clementine, crescent moon heart, survived fire, survived streets, found her way home, twice. The bridge between worlds. Maya paused, letting the needle rest. Her fingers traced the words. The bridge. That's what Clementine had been. A trembling, scarred bridge between Maya's shattered present and her grandmother's cherished past. Between grief and grace. Between feeling utterly lost and discovering she was precisely where she needed to be. Not despite the brokenness, but because of it. Because it was the cracks. In Clementine's leg, in Maya's heart, in the plaster of that fateful wall, that let the light pour through, revealing the hidden tag, the hidden sketches, the hidden truth of a love that refused to die. Clementine stirred, stretching her good leg with a soft groan, her amber eyes blinking open. They found Maya's instantly, holding a depth of knowing that still took Maya's breath away. It wasn't just cat intelligence. It was the accumulated wisdom of survival, of loss endured, and love rediscovered across impossible distances. The slow blink, deliberate, profound. I see you, Weaver. I'm still here. Maya smiled, the warmth spreading from her chest to her fingertips. She reached out, not to stroke, but to simply rest her hand near Clementine's sleeping form. The cat didn't move towards it. She didn't need to. The connection thrummed in the space between them, as tangible as the rain on the glass. Years had passed since that alley. The frantic energy of Clementine's middle age, the clumsy leaps after feather wands, had mellowed into a regal stillness. Her purr was louder now, constant, comforting engine, but her movements were slower, more considered. The thumb scrape of her gait held a new weight. The relentless river was flowing. Maya looked at the quilt. Spaces still waited, blank squares of crisp white cotton, like open doors. She hadn't filled them all. Some stories were still unfolding, like the small, shy tabby who'd started appearing on the alley bench, watching Clementine with wide, curious eyes. Maya had begun leaving an extra saucer of salmon. She'd sketched the tabby, tentative lines capturing its wary hope. that sketch, waiting, would find its place. The weaver's work was never truly finished. I realized, gazing at Clementine's peaceful face, was the quiet heart of it all. The meaning that had woven itself through the pain, the mystery, the miraculous return. It wasn't just about rescuing a cat, or being rescued by one. It was about the invisible threads that connect us. Threads spun from love, stretched thin by loss, tested by fire and street and time, but never truly broken. They connect us to those we've lost. Like Evelyn Reed's hand guiding Maya's through a hidden tin of sketches. They connect us to the broken creatures who find us, mirroring our own fractures, showing us how to mend. They connect us, across cities and years, to the strangers who become family, simply because we chose to listen, to open the door a crack, even when our own hearts felt boarded up. Clementine sighed, a deep, shuddering breath that lifted her small frame. Her eyes drifted half-closed, but her purr remained, steady as a heartbeat. Maya knew, the final gift Clementine offered, the culmination of every slow blink, every headbutt, every purr in the dark, wasn't just the past reclaimed. It was the profound understanding of now, the precious, fleeting beauty of shared presence, the warmth of a sunbeam on fur, the sound of rain on glass, the feel of threads sliding through fabric, connecting one story to the next. It was learning that home isn't always a place you return to unchanged. It's a place you build, brick by broken brick, per by per, stitch by stitch, with the unexpected companions who find you in the storm and choose to stay. The rain softened, becoming a whisper. Golden afternoon light, weak but determined, began to break through the clouds. It slanted through the window, falling across the quilt, illuminating Clementine's ginger fur, catching the glint of Evelyn Reed's thin gold band on Maya's finger, and warming the amber thread in Maya's hand. It painted the crescent moon tag on the wall, no longer tarnished, but softly glowing, a silent witness, a promise kept. Maya picked up her needle again. She didn't choose a new scrap. She moved to the white square beside Clementine's story. With a fine-tipped pen, she began to write, not a name, but a truth learned, a whisper carried on the thread connecting grandmother, granddaughter, and cat. Love is the map the lost use to find their way home, even when home is a heart they've never seen. Clementine's purr deepened, a resonant hum of approval, or perhaps just contentment. Her breathing slowed, matching the rhythm of the rain's gentle retreat. In the alley washed clean, a sparrow sang, the story of Maya and Clementine, the stray with the broken leg who found her way back. But wasn't ending. Stories like this, stories of resilience, of unlikely love, of second chances whispered in a cat's purr, they ripple outward. They remind us of the quiet miracles unfolding in alleyways, in apartments, in the spaces between our own broken pieces. They show us that sometimes the most profound healing, the most extraordinary homecomings, begin with a single act of courage, a single moment of choosing to see the life, so calling out from the shadows. Before you go, if this story of Clementine's impossible journey, of a love that crossed fire and time, touched something deep within you, like this video, let us know that these echoes of hope and resilience matter. Subscribe to the channel, because stories like this, stories of quiet courage, of bonds forged in brokenness, of the extraordinary love waiting in the most ordinary places, they're waiting to be told. We find them stitch by stitch, purr by purr. Tell us in the comments below, where in the world are you listening from? Is it raining where you are? Is the sun shining? Are you curled up with your own furry bridge between worlds? Your stories, your corners of the globe, weave into this tapestry too. It means more than you know. Share this video. Pass it on to someone who needs a reminder that lost things can find their way home, that brokenness can gleam, that love leaves paw prints that never fade. And press that bell icon. Ring it loud. Because every single day, somewhere, a new story is beginning. A stray is taking its first trembling step towards an open heart. A memory is whispering beneath the plaster. A miracle, furry and purring, is waiting to be found. Don't miss a single one. Maya tied off the amber thread, a small, secure knot. She laid her hand over Clementine's sleeping form, feeling the deep, steady purr vibrate through her palm, settling deep into her own bones. A final transmission, a perfect loop. The last raindrop fell, catching the sunlight as it landed, a tiny, fleeting prism, before disappearing into the damp earth, nourishing the roots of something waiting just beneath the surface to bloom. The quiet, filled only by Clementine's breath, and the echo of a sparrow's song, wasn't empty. It was full of memory, full of peace, full of the enduring, unbreakable whisper of love that always finds its way home.